More than 100 immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally were detained in a raid Sunday in Colorado. And the ACLU says a 2-year-old girl was one of 3 U.S. children who were deported by the Trump administration last week. Good morning. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Federal law enforcement officials say they have arrested more than 100 immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. They were detained early Sunday morning in a Colorado raid. NPR's Joe Hernandez reports authorities say they targeted an underground nightclub.
Video posted online by the Drug Enforcement Administration shows patrons streaming out of the front doors of the club and being detained by law enforcement officers waiting outside. The DEA said the raid led to the capture of 114 immigrants in the U.S. without legal status, as well as the seizure of guns and illegal drugs. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the club was frequented by gang members. NPR could not immediately verify the immigration status of those arrested and whether there's any evidence of gang membership. A DEA official said in a video posted online by a local news outlet that more than a dozen active duty service members were also in the club, either as patrons or working as armed security guards. Joe Hernandez, NPR News.
Separately, court cases are underway as some migrants and lawyers try to stop their deportations. One case involves a family from New Orleans. The mother does not have legal status, but her 2-year-old daughter is an American citizen. NPR's Joel Rose reports that during a regular immigration check-in, the family was detained and then deported to Honduras.
The judge in this case, who was appointed by President Trump, seems concerned about how this was handled, and he has now set a hearing for next month with the goal of dispelling his, quote, strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process, unquote. According to the ACLU, this is one of 3 U.S. children deported from the U.S., along with mothers without legal status last week.
NPR's Joel Rose reporting. A Wisconsin county judge is scheduled to have a preliminary hearing next month. Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested last Friday by federal authorities. She was charged with helping a migrant who was in the U.S. illegally to avoid arrest. Wisconsin Democratic officials say the arrest is a deliberate effort to intimidate the third and co-equal branch of American government, the judiciary. President Trump says officials need to take action.
You know, we have a country. We have to be proud of our country. We can't let these people stay, and the courts are allowing them to stay. And we're just not going to allow it. So hopefully the Supreme Court will come to the rescue of our country.
Meanwhile, Judge Dugan has issued a statement through an attorney. She says she is committed to the rule of law and the principles of due process. Dugan says she will defend herself vigorously. President Trump will mark his first 100 days in office starting tomorrow. NPR's Asma Khalid reports the date is considered a milestone as observers take stock of a president's early record.
The idea of measuring a president by what he's done in 100 days is no doubt somewhat arbitrary, but it goes back to the 1930s and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Trump has acted more swiftly and more aggressively than his first term to enact sweeping change, shrinking the size of the federal government, dismantling agencies, taking over cultural institutions, cracking down on immigrants, and upending the economic system with his tariff plans. But as he's done this, polls show the president's popularity is falling. As he reaches this 100-day milestone, polling shows his approval rating at this point is lower than any other president in recent history. Asma Khalid, NPR News.
Russia says it will implement a unilateral temporary ceasefire running from May 8th to May 10th. Russia is going to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. It's calling on Ukraine to follow suit, but this comes after Russia declared a ceasefire for Easter. Both Russia and Ukraine blamed each other for breaking that truce. The news comes after President Trump met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over the weekend at the Vatican. NPR's Joanna Kakissis reports from Ukraine.
The two men met at the Vatican before attending the funeral of Pope Francis. Alexander Merechko, who is a lawmaker with Zelensky's party, says the meeting gives him hope.
There is nothing like direct face-to-face dialogue between both presidents, because this is the only way how all misunderstandings can be removed.
However, the Trump administration has been pressing Ukraine to accommodate Russian demands and is offering very little to Ukraine in return. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed at least 70 people in the last 24 hours. That's according to Gaza health officials. The rising death toll comes as food has run out for most people in Gaza. The UN says its food supplies are fully depleted due to Israel's total aid blockade, now in its second month. NPR's Anas Baba has more from Gaza City.
The UN World Food Programme says it has no more lentils, beans, or pasta to supply the charity kitchens that half of Gaza's population depends on. 50-year-old Majida Al-Sakani waited more than 2 hours for some cooked rice for her family yesterday. This kitchen is her only source of food. If this hot kitchen shuts down, we will reach total famine, she says. She cannot afford the canned food sold in the markets, where eggs, dairy, and meat are no longer available. Israel says the blockade is meant to pressure Hamas to release hostages and lay down arms. Human rights groups and aid agencies say it's collective punishment and illegal under international law. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
The Vatican has announced the start date for a papal conclave. It's Wednesday, May 7th. Members of the Roman Catholic College of Cardinals will sequester themselves inside the historic Sistine Chapel. Eligible cardinals will then vote to select the next pope. They will remain sequestered in the Vatican until the next pontiff is chosen. Moose are on the move in Sweden. They've begun their annual migration across the northern part of the country. NPR's Ayana Archie reports millions of people are tuning in to watch.
Each spring, hundreds of moose journey from their winter hangout spot to their summer one, which is in the mountains near the Sweden-Norway border. They're looking for new food sources as well as a nice place to raise their calves. Since 2019, Swedish public broadcaster SVT has live-streamed the trip. More than 9 million people watched around the world last year, and viewership is expected to be even higher this year. That's according to an executive producer of the live stream. The program is an indication of how popular the slow TV genre has become. Slow TV includes live, unedited, and hours or even months-long coverage of some routine event, usually with a theme or journey in mind. Ayana Archie, NPR News.
This is NPR.